After a solid episode that broke records for DC and HBO Max, episode 2 of Lanterns is here, and it was pretty great. It gave us a lot to talk about, made me trust everybody even less than I already did, and even referenced the Green Lantern that's a planet. I got a lot to cover, so we're going to jump straight into it. But first, WB properties can be a bit of a pain to talk about online. They love demonetizing and suppressing videos that contain footage or even trailers of their shows and movies, so it'd really help a lot if you liked, commented, and subscribed. And hype the video, something that I'm pretty sure only exists just for creators to say, you could also hype the video, but I don't really know if that does anything. Anyways, spoilers begin now. After how last week's episode ended, I figured this episode might have taken place in 2026, or at least showed us a little bit of it. But nope, we got none of that here, outside a few lines that are really funny when you remember that Hal Jordan is going to be shot and killed in this town at some point.
Thanks for not dying in my jurisdiction.
This episode saw Hal and John separating and tackling their own little quests. John is tasked to retrieve the lantern so Hal can charge the ring, and to keep a bird alive as a little test, while Hal does some investigating around town. This is one of 3 scenes where they interact with each other this episode. The tension between these two is so good, and based off of how this episode ends, it's only going to get more tense. Hal's investigation takes him back to the football field, and he discovers something sus about the metal detectors. He tries to talk to the sheriff about it at a town hall, but gets completely shut down. And then Billy tries to get him to leave town. The vibe of the meeting really changes when Hal enters, and I love that they made him walk through metal detectors to prove his theory about the other metal detectors being weird. For some reason, the town doesn't want him investigating and desperately wants him to leave. But Hal being Hal and listening to his gut, it makes him want to figure it out more. And he does make a break. The metal detectors at the football field can scan aliens somehow, and he figures it out by stealing the dead bodies. The sheriff pulls him over with the bodies in his car, and Hal learns they're on the same page. Only in terms of how much they know about the investigation, they are not aligned on anything else right now. She definitely hates him. Their dynamic was pretty great this episode. She has very little tolerance for his antics attitude, basically everything about him. But she's stuck with him because he's like the only other one trying to solve this case. Carrie may hate him, but she hates the case more. And Hal is making it very easy to hate him with how much of a reckless asshat he is. Like convincing her to take her to Macon's to talk to her father-in-law, only to completely ignore that plan, push Macon on answering questions that he doesn't want to answer just to get shot. I can't believe he is dead in 2026. To think there is somebody out there that this man pissed off so much that they would want him dead. It's a good thing he got shot though, because that hospital scene was really good. We get some teases about his past as he mentioned Sinestro in his sleep, and then Carrie seemingly reads a DC Wiki article about Sinestro. How Hal got the ring is very important to this case and most likely his death, so teasing his past here again is smart. Carrie also mentions a power struggle between her and her father-in-law that I'm excited to see play out, especially after information we heard about on John's side of the episode. This is actually a very honest scene from her. She is showing Hal some of her cards to try to get him to help in a responsible way. But there are 2 important notes from this scene that I've seen everybody talk about online. First, Carrie Kane is from Gotham. Now, does that matter, or are we just so desperate to see anything from the DCU's version of Batman that we cling to any remote reference to Gotham? Correct. We are really desperate about that right now. But more importantly, Bruce Wayne's mom, yeah, her maiden name is Kane.
Why did you say that name?
So it's entirely possible that this is Bruce Wayne's cousin. Now, what does that mean? Being a detective and having a strong sense of justice runs in the family? To be fair, her last name could just be a reference to Hal Jordan's creator, Gil Kane, which is what I saw a lot of people saying last week before we knew she was from Gotham. If that's what they were going for and they just so happened to randomly pick Gotham to be the city that she's from, they messed up. Other than her possibly being related to Batman, the other thing people were talking about from this scene was how empty the hospital was. They spent a lot of time showing it, and a lot of the stuff in this hospital would probably get like a PSA 9 at least. Carrie waves it off, but it's still very sus. It's leading people to believe that everyone in this town is an alien that has no need for hospitals, and I'm inclined to agree. It was my main thought during this scene, even though they were trying to distract us with the Gotham connection. Hal's side of the episode was very good at showing us his character and the dynamic he has with Carrie and the town, and progressing the mystery at hand. But we can't begin to solve the mystery without going back and seeing what John was up to. He holds the key to start figuring this thing out. After John gets the lantern from Hal's place and feeds his plant thing, John gets jumped and takes us through a pretty solid fight scene. The action in the car was fun, and then taking it on the highway was a really smart choice. I love seeing John bob and weave through the cars, and I hate that they won't let me show any clips of it. Last episode did have that chase scene, but this was really its first action set piece, and I can't wait to see more. Sidebar, Hal getting shot leading into John waking up, jolting in his seat, was such an amazing cut.
You try to shoot me, and I'm just gonna put up.
This scene with John shows us two very important things. First, the fact that John is able to keep this bird alive while being so far from the ring over a long period of time is incredibly impressive, and it helps build up the central conflict between Hal and John for who should have the ring. Also, I think this bird might be proof that nature is healing from the damage that CinemaSins did to media criticism online, because I haven't seen a single person say, "Oh, how did he get this bird past TSA? This is incredibly unrealistic, and it is a massive plot hole that is ruining the episode." Ding. The second important thing from this scene is the mention of the Manhunters. I don't know if they're connected to Martian Manhunter or not. I don't think so. My comic book friend who I would ask hasn't watched the show yet, and I don't want to look it up and accidentally come across something that I would consider a spoiler. So anyone in the comments, you can just say yes or no. I'll know what you're talking about. We knew body snatching was happening, and if you watch the trailers, we knew it was the Manhunters. And I think we all thought that the aliens from last episode were said Manhunters. We get a little bit about their background, and John has some of the horrors that they committed across the universe beamed into his head, with some great acting from Aaron Pierre. He is actually so perfect, I will be singing his praises all season. Same thing goes for Kyle Chandler too. They are both perfect. The aliens share that after the Manhunter was arrested and set to be executed, they learned that it was brought to Earth, and it's really sus that the second after some of their guys get shot, Hal Jordan shows up. So it's possible that Hal and the Green Lanterns are working with the Manhunters, or at the very least, maybe the Guardians are somehow. The aliens give John 48 hours to find where the Manhunter is, or else they're just going to nuke the town. I personally love a good ticking time bomb. It does deflate it a bit knowing that Hal is found dead in the football field in 2026, but that just means we're not going to spend the rest of the season looking for this one Manhunter. I guess it'd be like 2, maybe 3 episodes before he's found. John gets another scene with Zoe, and I'm really sus on her because she keeps asking him about his white guy. I really want to know why she's so invested in everything surrounding the Green Lanterns. He doesn't eat off of another man's grill this time around, at least from what we see. Her and Macon have a weird situation going on. And then the two Lanterns finally meet up only after really sharing a phone call since they separated. That was a great scene. On the official Lanterns podcast, they were bringing up how they wanted to force them to communicate, which is why they had them over the phone in that scene. Because these are two guys that are not really good at communicating with each other. But back to the end of the episode, I love how Hal speeds through the oath. It really shows how he has some issues with the symbolism surrounding the Green Lanterns, which is also why he got pissed off at it last episode. It could be some trauma relating to Sinestro or something else. Maybe how he got the ring and how that relates to the Manhunter. And it really shows a glimpse into John's character because Hal pisses him off so much this episode. Like, he definitely ruined his chances of ever having affordable car insurance ever again. But he doesn't explode on him. He takes a breath and asks him about the Manhunters.
Then he's testing you. They're allowed to have tantrums. We're not. So breathe in, button down, and bottle up.
What do you know about Manhunters?
He makes a decision to trust him despite how untrustworthy he can be. And he does it because he trusts Hal's gut. They may not trust each other at all, but they do share a common goal. And we once again see Hal's distrust of the Guardians. People were speculating that Hal didn't update the hologram, not because he was being lazy or anything, but because he doesn't trust the Guardians and doesn't want them to find out what he knows. And I agree. There's way more that this show isn't telling us. John is being weirdly sus about the bird though. there's a lot more going on with him too. The episode ends with Hal going to a cool-ass space prison to talk to Sinestro, who tells him that if the Manhunter was alive, it would be the second biggest threat to Hal. He then asks him about Jon Stewart, implying that he's the biggest threat. I do think that's Sinestro just messing with him and trying to sow distrust between the two who already don't trust each other that much. I'm starting to think though that it's entirely possible that the reason why Sinestro betrayed the Green Lanterns was because he found out about the Manhunter and whatever he has going on with the Guardians. But that info didn't get out, so the only people that know are the Guardians, Sinestro, who I think told Hal. So I think they're setting up Sinestro to still be a villain, but to also show how distrustworthy the Guardians are, to give Hal this inner conflict around being a Green Lantern. This episode changed everything. While there were a lot of aliens running around, only one of them is a Manhunter, and the other ones are, for lack of a better term, Manhunter hunters. But that still leaves us with the very important question of who is the Manhunter? The names I've been seeing thrown around the most are Macon, Zoe, and Carrie. Macon seems like the most obvious answer of the three, which I feel like makes him the least likely. He's trying to protect the town from an alien invasion, but his altruism could just be a cover. He could be doing it to protect himself from those aliens. If Zoe's the Manhunter, it would make sense that she's buddying up so closely with someone who is trying to protect the town from said aliens, trying to get the Manhunter. And she is weirdly invested in Green Lantern related stuff. Carrie is the likely bait and switch option. She is very interested in solving this case. And also her overuse of sayings kind of makes her feel like an alien, you know? I can't explain it, but I think they're trying to make the audience think, oh, she's just saying this because she's an alien, thinking, oh, what would a human say here? But with the Gotham connection and her still being the sheriff and alive in 2026, after the case is presumably closed, I don't think it's her unless they end up siding with the Manhunter. I think the most likely option is Macon's boss. He did provide Macon with the tech to detect the aliens who might be trying to kill him, that Hal is like completely surprised even exists. And we know nothing about him. He could be anyone, anywhere. Kind of like the Manhunter right now. I also think it could be Billy, because he's a dummy. It's possible that the Manhunter is hiding in plain sight as a dumbass. All of this is assuming there is only one Manhunter. We don't know if they can reproduce. The whole city could be Manhunters who have no use for medical equipment. It could just be everyone in Macon's militia, or everyone who's related to him by blood, and his wife. Again, we're only assuming it's one. Abin Sur was the last person to know he was communicating with a Manhunter, and he's dead. Everyone is a suspect. Going into the next episode, I have a few questions. Obviously, who is the Manhunter? What's his plan? What does Sinestro know? How many people are aliens? Who is Macon's boss? Is Carrie Bruce Wayne's cousin? And how does this all lead to Hal's murder? This was better than the last episode, and things are really heating up. Let me know if you have any theories around these questions down below. But with that, we end it here. Until next week, when we get more questions and no answers.